Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the large window of Earth Station Alpha, watching the alien ship approach. The massive vessel was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was 10 times larger than their biggest warship and covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. The ship moved slowly through space as if it owned everything around it. "Sir, they're sending a message," said Captain Lisa Brooks, walking up behind him. She held a small device in her hand that was beeping softly. "They want to talk." Jake nodded and turned away from the window. He had been expecting this day for months. The deep space sensors had detected the alien fleet weeks ago, moving toward human space. Everyone knew this moment would come eventually. Humans had been exploring the galaxy for over a century, but they had never met anyone else. Now, someone had finally come to meet them. "Put it on the main screen," Jake said as they walked to the command center. The room was filled with officers and scientists, all watching the large screen at the front of the room. Dr. Alex Turner, the station's chief scientist, was already there, studying readings from his instruments. The screen flickered and then showed the inside of the alien ship. A tall creature appeared, standing at least 8 feet high. Its skin was gray and covered in scales, and it had 4 arms instead of 2. Its eyes were large and black, and when it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am Supreme Arbiter Vexthal of the Galactic Council," the creature said. "I speak for the 7 great species that rule this galaxy. You will listen." Jake stepped forward. "I am Admiral Morrison, commander of this station. We welcome you to our space." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not pleasant. "Your space? You do not understand, small creature. Nothing in this galaxy belongs to you. Everything belongs to the Council. We have come to tell you what you must do." Dr. Turner moved closer to Jake and whispered, "The ship is scanning us. They're learning everything about our technology." Jake kept his face calm, but his mind was racing. He had hoped this first meeting would be friendly. Instead, it felt like a threat. "What do you want from us?" Jake asked. "Want?" Vexthal's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "We do not want. We take. You will give us what we demand, or you will die. This is how it has always been." The alien touched something on his arm, and the screen split in 2. On one side was still Vexthal, but on the other side were images of planets and star systems. Jake recognized some of them from human star charts. "These were once home to species like you," Vexthal continued. "They thought they could refuse the Council's demands. They were wrong. Some submitted and became our servants. Others fought and were destroyed. You will choose which path you take." The images showed ruined cities and empty worlds. Jake felt his stomach turn as he watched. How many civilizations had these creatures destroyed? "You have 30 of your days to decide," Vexthal said. "This is what you will give us. 40% of everything you make in your factories. 30% of your people to work for us. And you will change your bodies to make you better workers." Captain Brooks stepped forward. "Change our bodies? What do you mean?" "You are too independent," Vexthal replied. "This makes you difficult to control. We will fix this problem. You will become more like us, more obedient. It will be better for everyone. And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then you will join the dead worlds you see on your screen. Your choice is simple, serve or die." The alien reached out and touched his controls again. The screen went black. The command center was silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. Officers were shouting orders, scientists were arguing about what they had seen, and alarms were beginning to sound throughout the station. "Quiet," Jake called out. The room fell silent. "I want a full report on that ship in 1 hour. Contact Earth immediately. And get me Senator Hayes on the line." As the crew rushed to their duties, Jake turned to Dr. Turner. "What did you learn from their scans?" "They're incredibly advanced," Turner said quietly. "Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. But there's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" "It's old. Very old. Like they stopped improving it a long time ago. They have powerful weapons and shields, but the designs look ancient." Jake nodded. That was interesting, but it might not matter. Even old technology could destroy them if it was powerful enough. Captain Brooks came back with a report. Sir, we're tracking 7 more ships like this one. They're positioned around all our major colonies. They're not hiding. They want us to know they're there. Any response from Earth? President Davis is calling an emergency meeting. She wants to speak with you in 2 hours. Jake looked around the command center. His people were scared, but they were still working. Humans had always been good at working under pressure. Sir, Dr. Turner said, there's something else. I've been studying the data from first contact protocols. In all our planning, we assumed aliens would either be friendly or want to fight us directly. We never considered this. What do you mean? They're not here to conquer us in a war. They're here to collect us. Like we're some kind of resource they can harvest. They've done this before many times. This is just business to them. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The alien had been so casual about threatening to destroy humanity. It was like he was talking about collecting taxes or harvesting crops. How many species do you think they've done this to? Jake asked. Based on what we saw, hundreds, maybe thousands. They've been doing this for a very long time. Jake turned. Back to the window, the alien ship was still there, waiting. He could see smaller ships moving around it, probably studying the human station and the ships nearby. In 30 days, humanity would have to give an answer. They could surrender and become slaves, or they could fight and probably die. But as Jake looked at his crew, still working despite their fear, he began to think there might be a third option. The aliens had made one mistake. They had assumed humans would react like all the other species they had conquered. They had assumed humans would be afraid. They were wrong about that. President Claire Davis stood at the head of the long table in the emergency meeting room. Around her sat the most important people in human space. Military commanders, scientists, colony leaders, and government officials had all come to Earth. As quickly as possible, the room was tense and quiet. We all know why we're here, President Davis began. The aliens have given us 30 days to surrender or die. I want to hear from everyone before we make our decision. General Sam Cooper, the head of all human military forces, spoke first. Madam President, we've been studying their ships. They're powerful, but we think we can fight them. Our weapons are different from theirs. We might have a chance. What kind of chance? Asked Senator Karen Hayes. Maybe 30%, the general replied honestly. But that's better than 0% if we surrender. Dr. Alex Turner, who had flown in from Earth Station Alpha, shook his head. General, you don't understand what we're dealing with. These creatures have been doing this for thousands of years. They've conquered hundreds of species. They didn't get that powerful by being stupid. Then what do you suggest, Doctor? President Davis asked. We need time to study them, and we need to be smart about this. They expect us to either surrender immediately or fight them directly. We should do neither. Captain Lisa Brooks, who had also come from the station, leaned forward. What if we pretend to negotiate? Make them think we're considering their offer while we prepare for war. That's exactly what I was thinking, Dr. Turner said. We tell them we need time to convince our people. Meanwhile, we get ready. Commander Ryan Mitchell, who led the secret Ghost Fleet project, had been silent until now. We have assets they don't know about. My ships have been testing new stealth technology. The aliens scanned our main fleet, but they don't know about us. President Davis nodded. Tell me about these ghost ships. We have 12 ships that can move without being detected. They're smaller than our regular warships, but they're fast and hard to find. We built them in secret shipyards in the asteroid belt. 12 ships against their entire fleet? General Cooper asked. 12 ships they don't know exist, Mitchell corrected. That's a big advantage. Dr. Nina Foster, who worked on weapons development, spoke up. We've been working on new weapons too. The aliens' technology is very advanced, but it's also very old. Their ships are built to handle weapons like their own. Our new plasma cannons work completely differently. How different? The president asked. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and solid projectiles. But our plasma cannons create a different type of energy. We think we can punch through their defenses. Senator Hayes looked worried. But what if we're wrong? What if we fight them and lose? They'll destroy every human world. They'll destroy us anyway, said Captain Ben Rodriguez, who commanded the Mars Defense Grid. Maybe not right away, but eventually. They'll change us into something that isn't human. Any more? Is that really living? The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right. The aliens had been clear about their plans. They would modify human bodies and minds to make them better slaves. There's something else, Dr. Turner said. I've been studying the data from other species they've conquered. Every single one of them tried to negotiate or surrender. None of them ever fought back hard enough to matter. What do you mean? President Davis asked. They're used to species that give up easily. They've never had to fight a real war. Their military tactics are designed for intimidation, not actual combat. General Cooper smiled grimly. So they're bullies who've never been punched in the face. Exactly, and there's more. Their empire is huge, but it's also weak. They rule through fear, not loyalty. If we can show other species that the Council can be beaten, they might join us. Commander Mitchell nodded. The Ghost Fleet has been doing reconnaissance missions. We found slave camps on dozens of worlds. Some of those species still remember what freedom was like. President Davis looked around the table. So our plan is to pretend to negotiate while we prepare for war. We use our hidden ships to strike first and try to free other species to help us fight. That's the idea, Dr. Turner said. But we need to be very careful. If they discover what we're really doing, they'll attack immediately. Who's going to handle the negotiations? Senator Hayes asked. I will, said Ambassador Eric Johnson. I've been studying their language and culture. I think I can convince them that humans are just taking time to accept their new reality. Ken. Do you really fool them? President Davis asked. I think so. They're arrogant. They believe they're so much better than us that they can't imagine us lying to them effectively. Captain Amy Parker, who worked in intelligence, had been taking notes throughout the meeting. We'll need to coordinate this very carefully. Every human colony needs to prepare for war while looking like they're getting ready to surrender. What? About our people? Senator Hayes asked. They're scared. Some of them might actually want to surrender. We tell them the truth, President Davis said firmly. We tell them that surrender means the end of humanity as we know it. We tell them that we're going to fight and we're going to win. And if we lose? Hayes asked. Then we lose as humans, the president replied, not as slaves. Over the next several hours, they worked out the details of their plan. Each colony would begin preparing for war while publicly appearing to consider the alien demands. The military would hide their new weapons in ships. Scientists would continue studying alien technology. And Ambassador Johnson would begin negotiations. With the Council, Dr. Foster explained how they would distribute the new weapons. We've been secretly building plasma cannons on all the major worlds. They look like regular mining equipment, so the aliens won't notice them. What about the colonies that are too far away to defend? General Cooper asked. We evacuate them, President Davis said. We make it look like we're moving people to comply with the aliens' demands, but we're actually moving them to safety. Commander Mitchell outlined the Ghost Fleet's role. We'll position our ships near their major bases. When the fighting starts, we'll hit them fast and hard. Our job is to free as many slave worlds as possible as quickly as possible. How long do we have? President Davis asked. 25 days, Senator Hayes replied. 5 days have already passed since they gave us the ultimatum. Then we need to move fast, the president said. General Cooper, begin mobilizing all our forces. Dr. Foster, get those new weapons online. Commander Mitchell, position your ships. Ambassador Johnson, contact the aliens and tell them we want to negotiate. As the meeting ended, people began filing out of the room. But President Davis asked Dr. Turner to stay behind. Doctor, do you really think this will work? She asked when they were alone. I think it's our only chance, he replied. The aliens have been winning for thousands of years because no one has ever really fought back. Every species they've conquered has tried to save themselves by surrendering. But we're not going to surrender. No, we're not. And that's going to surprise them. They think they know how this story ends, but they're wrong. President Davis nodded. I hope you're right. Because if we're wrong, we're about to get a lot of people killed. Madam President, they're already dead if we do nothing. At least this way, we die as humans. Outside the meeting room, the work had already begun. Across human space, colonies were preparing for the fight of their lives. The aliens had demanded tribute, but they were about to learn that humans had a different kind of payment in mind. Ambassador Eric Johnson walked slowly through the corridors of the alien ship. The walls were covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. The air was thick and had a smell like metal and something else he couldn't identify. 2 alien guards walked beside him, their forearms moving in a rhythm that made him dizzy to watch. The Supreme Arbiter will see you now, one of the guards said in broken human language. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Eric nodded and tried to look nervous. It wasn't hard to pretend. He was nervous, but not for the reasons the aliens thought. He was nervous because so much depended on this meeting. If he made a mistake, if he said the wrong thing, the entire human plan would fail. The door in front of him opened with a sound like escaping gas. Inside was a large room with a high ceiling. Supreme Arbiter Vexthal stood at the center, surrounded by representatives from the other council species. Eric recognized some of them from the intelligence reports. There was a Kithran like Vexthal, a floating creature that looked like a jellyfish made of light, and something that might have been a giant insect. Ambassador Johnson, Vexthal said, his voice filling the room, you have come to surrender your species. I have come to discuss terms, Eric replied carefully. My people need time to understand what you're asking of us. The alien made that unpleasant laughing sound again. We are not asking, we are telling, but very well. What do your people not understand? Eric had practiced this conversation dozens of times. Many of my people have never seen aliens before. They find it hard to believe that such powerful beings exist. Some think this is all a trick. A trick? The jellyfish creature floated closer to Eric. When it spoke, its voice was like music, but cold music. Do they think we are illusions? Some do, Eric said. They want proof of your power. They want to see your other ships, your weapons, your technology. They say if you're really as powerful as you claim, why not show them? The alien leaders looked at each other. Eric could see them communicating in some way, but he couldn't understand how. After a moment, Vexthal turned back to him. We will show them power, he said. But first, tell us about your military. How many ships do you have? What weapons? Eric smiled weakly. We have about 300 ships spread across 12 star systems. Most of them are explorers and cargo haulers. We have maybe 50 real warships, and they're not very advanced. Our weapons are simple projectile cannons and basic energy weapons. This was all true, as far as it went. Eric was just not mentioning the Ghost Fleet or the new plasma weapons. Show us, the insect creature clicked. We want to see these ships. Eric nodded and activated a holographic display he had brought with him. It showed the human fleet exactly as the aliens had already seen it. This is everything we have. As you can see, we're not really a military species. We're explorers and traders. The aliens studied the display for several minutes. Eric could see them cataloging every ship, every weapon, every defensive system. They were being very thorough. Your ships are small, Vexthal observed. Weak. Why do you even have weapons? Pirates, Eric said. And sometimes we find dangerous animals on planets we explore. The weapons are mostly for self-defense. Pirates? The jellyfish creature sounded interested. Other species attack you? Not aliens, Eric said quickly. Human pirates. Some of our people turn to crime. It's a problem we're still trying to solve. The aliens seem to find this amusing. You fight among yourselves? How primitive. Eric nodded sadly. We're not a very advanced species. That's why many of my people think we should accept your offer. They believe joining the council would make us better. It will, Vexel said firmly. The modifications we will make to your bodies and minds will fix your flaws. You will be more efficient, more obedient, more useful. What exactly will you change? Eric asked. Your aggressive instincts will be reduced. Your need for independence will be eliminated. You will find great satisfaction in serving the council. Many species have thanked us for these improvements. Eric felt sick, but he nodded as if he was interested. That sounds wonderful. But my people are worried about the process. Will it hurt? There may be some discomfort, the insect creature said. But it is necessary. Your species is too chaotic as it is. You need order. I understand, Eric said. But some of my people are still afraid. They want to see demonstrations of your power before they agree. Could you perhaps show them your weapons? Or maybe visit one of our colonies? The aliens looked at each other again. Eric held his breath. This was the crucial moment. If they agreed to spread out their forces, it would give the human fleet a much better chance when the fighting started. Very well, Vexel said finally. We will demonstrate our power. It will help your people understand their situation. Thank you, Eric said. Which colonies will you visit? All of them, the jellyfish creature said. We will position our ships over every human world. Your people will see our power everywhere. They look, Eric's heart jumped. This was exactly what they had hoped for. That's very generous of you. My people will be impressed. They will be terrified, Vexel corrected. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. Over the next hour, Eric continued the negotiations. He asked many questions about the Council's plans for humanity. The aliens were happy to explain how they would reshape human society. They talked about the slave camps, the genetic modifications, the reduction of human population to a more manageable size. You will keep only the most useful humans, Vexel explained. The rest will be eliminated. It is more efficient this way. How many humans will you keep? Eric asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Perhaps 1 in 10. The others serve no purpose. Eric nodded as if this made sense. Inside he was burning with rage. These creatures were talking about murdering billions of people as if they were discussing crop rotation. I think I understand now, Eric said. But my people will still need time to accept this. Could you give us a few more days? How many days? The insect creature asked. Maybe 10 more days? Some of our colonies are very far away. It takes time to communicate with them. The aliens discussed this among themselves. Finally, Vexel nodded. 10 days, but no more. If your people have not surrendered by then, we will begin the elimination process. Thank you for your patience, Eric said. I'll return to my people and explain everything you've told me. As Eric left the alien ship, he felt like he was escaping from a nightmare. The shuttle trip back to Earth Station Alpha gave him time to think about what he had learned. The aliens were even more evil than they had imagined. They weren't just planning to enslave humanity. They were planning to murder most of them. Back at the station, Admiral Morrison was waiting for him. How did it go? The Admiral asked. Better than we hoped, Eric replied. They're going to spread their ships out over all our colonies. They want to show off their power. That's good news for us, Morrison said. Easier to hit them when they're not all in one place. There's more, Eric said. I got them to give us 10 more days. That should be enough time to get everything. Ready? What about their plans for us? Eric's face darkened. They're going to kill 9 out of every 10 humans. They only want to keep the ones they think are useful. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then we don't have a choice. We fight or we all die anyway. There's something else, Eric said. I think they're overconfident. They believe their own propaganda about being superior. They really think we're just going to roll over and accept whatever they do to us. Good, overconfident enemies make mistakes. Eric nodded. I hope so. Because if this doesn't work, we're all dead. Later that day, Eric sent coded messages to all the human colonies. The messages looked like routine diplomatic communications, but hidden inside them were the real instructions. The aliens were spreading. Out their fleet, the attack would begin in 10 days. Everyone needed to be ready. The aliens had made their biggest mistake. They had assumed that humans were like all the other species they had conquered. They thought humans would be grateful for the chance to serve. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Helen White checked her instruments one more time. The Ghost Fleet ship Phoenix hung in space near the edge of the Kepler colony system, invisible to alien sensors. Around her, 11 other stealth ships waited in perfect silence. In 6 hours, they would attack. "Captain," her communications officer whispered, "we're getting the final reports from all colonies." "Everyone is ready." Helen nodded. For the past 10 days, humanity had been preparing for this moment. While Ambassador Johnson kept the aliens busy with fake negotiations, human forces had moved into position. The aliens thought they were clever, spreading their ships over human colonies to intimidate them. Instead, they had made themselves easy targets. "Any word from Admiral Morrison?" Helen asked. "He confirms the main assault begins in 6 hours. We hit the slave camps first, then the command ships." Helen looked at her tactical display. Red dots showed the positions of alien ships throughout human space. There were dozens of them, but they were spread thin. The aliens had been so confident that they hadn't bothered to keep their fleet together. "Send a message to Commander Mitchell," Helen said. "Tell him we're ready." On the bridge of the ghost ship Phantom, Commander Ryan. Mitchell reviewed the final attack plan. His ship and 5 others would hit the slave camps in the Vega system. Intelligence reports showed that thousands of beings from dozens of species were imprisoned there. If they could free them, they would have allies in the fight against the Council. "Commander," his weapons officer said, "plasma cannons are charged and ready. Stealth systems are at full power." "Good. Remember, we go in fast and hard. Free the prisoners, destroy the guards, and get out before their reinforcements arrive." Mitchell had been preparing for this moment for years. The Ghost Fleet had been his idea, ships that could strike without warning and disappear before the enemy could respond. The aliens had powerful weapons, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't see. On Earth, President Davis sat in the command center, watching reports come in from across human space. Every colony was ready, every ship was in position. In 6 hours, humanity would either win its freedom or die trying. "Madam President," General Cooper said, "we're receiving final confirmations from all sectors. The new plasma weapons are online. Our people are ready." Davis nodded. "Any last-minute intelligence on the alien fleet?" "They're still spread out across our colonies," Captain Brooks reported. "They haven't detected our preparations. They think we're going to surrender." "Then let's show them how wrong they are," Davis said. In the Tau Ceti system, the alien ship Dominator hung in orbit over the human colony of New Houston. On the bridge, Captain Zektar of the Kithran Empire watched the human city below. Soon, most of these primitive creatures would be dead. The few survivors would be grateful for the chance to serve the Council. "Captain," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the human colony. They say they want to discuss surrender terms." Zektar made the grinding sound that passed for laughter among his people. "Tell them to prepare. For processing, we will begin selecting useful humans tomorrow." The Kithran captain had conquered 17 species in his long career. Humans would be no different. They were weak, divided, and scared. Like all the others, they would submit rather than fight. He was about to learn how wrong he was. At exactly 1,200 hours, ship time, the attack began. Captain White's ship Phoenix appeared from nowhere, its plasma cannons blazing. The alien vessel nearest to her exploded in a ball of fire before its crew even knew they were under attack. Around her, the other ghost ships struck their targets with deadly precision. "Target destroyed," her weapons officer reported. "Moving to next target." The Phoenix vanished back into stealth mode and streaked toward the slave processing facility on the planet below. Their job was to free the prisoners and get them to safety before the aliens could kill them. In the Vega system, Commander Mitchell's task force hit the slave camps like a hammer. The alien guards were caught completely off guard. They had been expecting to process more prisoners, not to come under attack from invisible ships. "Breach the containment fields," Mitchell ordered. "Get those prisoners out of there." The ghost ships fired carefully aimed shots that destroyed the force fields, holding the alien prisoners. Thousands of beings from dozens of species suddenly found themselves free for the first time in years. "This is Commander Mitchell of the human fleet," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You are free. We are here to help you fight the Council. Who will stand with us?" The response was immediate and overwhelming. Voices in dozens of languages filled the communication channels. The freed prisoners were ready to fight. Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, the main human fleet was engaging the alien ships directly. The aliens had expected to fight primitive human vessels with simple weapons. Instead, they found themselves facing plasma cannons that cut through their shields like paper. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of the Defiance as his fleet tore into the alien forces. "Target their command ships first," he ordered. "Cut off their ability to coordinate." The human ships were smaller and faster than the alien vessels. They darted in and out of weapons range, hitting hard and moving before the aliens could respond. The aliens had powerful weapons, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't catch. "Sir," Captain Brooks reported, "we're getting reports from all sectors. The ghost ships have freed prisoner camps on 12 worlds. We have thousands of new allies joining the fight." Morrison smiled grimly. "Tell them to target the alien supply lines. Cut off their fuel and ammunition." On the planet New Houston, the human colonists watched in amazement as alien ships exploded in their sky. The creatures that had come to enslave them were being destroyed by their own people. But the humans weren't just watching. They were fighting. 2. "Activate the ground-based plasma cannons," ordered Colonel Mike Thompson. "Show these aliens what Earth hospitality looks like." Hidden weapons systems all over the planet opened fire. The aliens had scanned the human colonies, but they had missed the weapons disguised as mining equipment and industrial machinery. Now those weapons were destroying alien ships that thought they were safe in orbit. Captain Zektar watched in horror as his ship's shields failed under the assault from human plasma weapons. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These creatures are primitives." "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting weapon signatures unlike anything in our database. Their technology is completely different from ours." "Return fire," Zektar ordered. "Destroy their cities." But it was too late. The human weapons had already crippled his ship. The Dominator was falling toward the planet, its crew scrambling for escape pods. Across human space, the story was the same. Alien ships that had come to intimidate were being destroyed by an enemy they had underestimated. The Council had expected to face scared primitives. Instead, they found themselves fighting a coordinated, determined, and surprisingly well-armed foe. In the command center on Earth, President Davis watched the battle reports with growing excitement. "How are we doing?" she asked General Cooper. "Better than we hoped," he replied. "We've destroyed over half their fleet. The ghost ships have freed prisoner camps on 18 worlds, and we're getting reports of uprisings on Council worlds throughout the galaxy." "Uprisings?" "The news is spreading. Species that have been enslaved for centuries are learning that the Council can be beaten. They're fighting back." Davis nodded. This was what they had hoped for. The Council's power was based on fear. If that fear disappeared, their empire would collapse. "What about casualties?" she asked. Lighter than expected. The aliens weren't prepared for real combat. They've been fighting helpless victims for so long, they forgot how to fight soldiers. On his flagship, Supreme Arbiter Vexthal watched his empire crumble. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships were attacking Council installations everywhere. Slave worlds were rebelling. His carefully maintained order was falling apart. "How did this happen?" he demanded. "These humans were supposed to surrender." "They lied to us," his aide replied. "While we were negotiating, they were preparing for war." Vexthal felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: fear. The humans had done something no other species had ever managed. They had united the galaxy against the Council. Send word to all Council fleets, he ordered. Fall back to the core worlds. We need to regroup. But it was too late for regrouping. The humans had struck too fast and too hard. The Council scattered. Fleets were being destroyed piecemeal, and their former slaves were joining the fight with enthusiasm. The galaxy was at war, and for the first time in thousands of years, the Council was losing. 6 months after the first attack, Fleet Admiral Tony Clark stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberation, watching the final battle of the war. Before him lay the Council's home system, the heart of their empire. Dozens of massive alien ships formed defensive lines around their capital world, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Admiral, Captain Linda Davis reported, all Allied fleets are in position. We have ships from 47 different species ready to attack. Tony nodded. It was hard to believe how much had changed. When the war started, humanity had been alone against the Council. Now they led the largest alliance in galactic history. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were fighting side by side with humans and each other. Open the channel to all ships, Tony ordered. This is Fleet Admiral Clark. Today we end the Council's reign of terror. Every being in this fleet is here because they chose freedom over slavery. Let's show the galaxy what free people can accomplish. The response was immediate. Voices in dozens of languages filled the communication channels, all saying the same thing in different ways. They were ready to fight. On the planet below, Supreme Arbiter Vexthal paced in his command center. The last 6 months had been a nightmare. One by one, the Council's worlds had fallen to the human-led alliance. Species that had served the Council for thousands of years had turned against them. The empire that had seemed eternal was crumbling. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving surrender offers from 3 more Council worlds. They want to join the alliance. Vexthal snarled. Cowards! After all we've done for them, they betray us at the first sign of trouble. What are your orders, sir? We fight to the end. The Council will not surrender to these primitive humans. But even as he spoke, Vexthal knew it was hopeless. The humans had done something impossible. They had united the galaxy against the Council. Worse, they had proven that the Council could be defeated. Above the planet, the battle began. The Allied fleet struck like a hammer against the Council's defenses, but this time it wasn't just about superior tactics or surprise. The Alliance had something the Council had never possessed, the willing cooperation of dozens of species working together. Fire at will, Admiral Clark ordered. All ships, coordinate your attacks, remember your training. The human ships led the assault, but they weren't alone. Crystalline vessels from the liberated Zenorian Empire fired beams of pure energy. Former Council slave warriors piloted fast attack craft that darted between the massive alien ships. Even the jellyfish-like ethereals who had once served the Council now fought against their former masters. Captain Helen White, now commanding a full battle group, watched as her mixed fleet of human and alien ships destroyed a Council dreadnought. Target their command ship, she ordered. Cut off their communications. The battle was fierce but brief. The Council's ships were powerful, but they were designed for intimidation, not real combat. They had grown used to fighting helpless victims. Against a coordinated alliance of free species, they were outmatched. Admiral, Captain Davis reported, the Council's defensive line is breaking. Their flagship is trying to retreat. Don't let them escape, Tony ordered. This ends today. On the surface of the Council's capital world, billions of beings watched the battle in their sky. Many of them were slaves who had served the Council for generations. They had never imagined that their masters could be defeated. Dr. Paul Martinez, now serving as the Alliance's chief strategist, monitored the battle from his command ship. All fleets maintain formation. Don't let them regroup. Martinez had spent the last 6 months studying the Council's empire and planning for this moment. The key wasn't just winning the battle. It was what came after. The galaxy needed a new order, one based on cooperation instead of domination. Sir, his aide reported, we're detecting massive explosions on the planet's surface. It looks like the Council is destroying their own facilities. They're trying to deny us intelligence, Martinez realized. Don't let them. Send in the rescue teams. General Lisa Anderson led the ground assault on the Council's capital. Her forces were a mix of human marines and alien warriors, all working together with a precision that would have been impossible under the Council's system. Secure the government buildings, she ordered. We need those records intact. And find any prisoners they might be holding. The fighting on the ground was brutal but one-sided. The Council's forces had never faced enemies who fought back effectively. Their tactics were based on terrorizing helpless victims, not battling trained soldiers. General, her communications officer reported, we found the central prison complex. There are thousands of prisoners from hundreds of species. Get them out, Anderson ordered. All of them. And find the Council leadership. In his command bunker, Vexthal watched his empire die. His screens showed Alliance forces pouring into the capital city. His ships were being destroyed in orbit. Everything he had worked for over centuries was being undone in a single day. Sir, his aide said quietly, perhaps we should consider surrender. The humans have offered terms. Surrender? Vexthal turned on his aide with fury. The Council does not surrender to inferior species? But sir, they're not inferior. They've beaten us. The truth of those words hit Vexthal like a physical blow. The humans had beaten them. These creatures that the Council had dismissed as primitives had destroyed an empire that had lasted for millennia. A new voice filled the bunker. Supreme Arbiter Vexthal, this is Fleet Admiral Clark. Your fleet has been defeated. Your capital is surrounded. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Vexthal looked around his command center. His staff was staring at him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? The war was over. The Council had lost. Never, he said finally. The Council will never surrender to humans. Then you'll die with it, Clark replied. Your choice. The final assault on the Council's bunker was led by Commander Steve Allen, a human who had spent months studying Council technology. With him were soldiers from a dozen different species, all working together to end the war. Breach the doors, Allen ordered. Watch for traps. The Council's final defenses were formidable, but they were designed to keep out individual attackers, not coordinated assaults by multiple species. The Alliance forces cut through them with practiced efficiency when they reached the command center. They found Vexthal alone. His staff had abandoned him, choosing to surrender rather than die for a lost cause. Supreme Arbiter, Allen said, you're under arrest for crimes against the galaxy. Vexthal looked at the human commander with what might have been curiosity. You're just a primitive species. How did you defeat us? We're not primitive, Allen replied. We're free. And we're not alone. As if to prove his point, soldiers from dozens of species entered the command center. Former slaves stood beside their liberators, all united in their victory over oppression. The Council ruled through fear, Allen continued. But fear only works if people believe they have no choice. We gave them a choice. Later, as the Alliance fleet celebrated their victory, Admiral Clark met with the leaders of the liberated species. They had won the war, but now they faced an even greater challenge, building a better galaxy. We can't just destroy the Council's empire, said Ambassador Johnson, who had survived the war and now served as Earth's representative to the Alliance. We need to replace it with something better. What do you propose? Asked the leader of the Crystalline Collective, a species that had been enslaved for over 1,000 years. A true alliance, Johnson replied. Not an empire ruled by one species, but a confederation of free worlds. Each species governs itself, but we work together for mutual benefit. And if someone tries to conquer us again? Asked the former council. Slave, then we fight together, Admiral Clark said firmly. The Council's biggest mistake was thinking that superior technology was enough. The technology without unity is just tools. Unity without freedom is just slavery. We have both. Dr. Martinez had been working on the framework for the new government. We'll call it the Free Systems Alliance. Every species gets a voice. Every world gets to choose its own path. And if anyone tries to build another empire, we'll stop them. What about the council species? Asked Captain White. Some of them surrender, others are still fighting. We treat them fairly, President Davis said. She had traveled to the councils capital to witness the end of the war. The ones who surrender can join the alliance if they want. The ones who keep fighting will be stopped, but we won't become like them. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to heal. The councils. Slave camps were dismantled. Their weapons were destroyed or converted to peaceful uses. The species that had been enslaved for centuries began to rebuild their worlds. The humans, who had started the war as a small species fighting for survival, found themselves at the center of a new galactic civilization, but they didn't rule it. They led it, and there was a difference. We could have built an empire, Admiral Clark said to President Davis as they watched the first meeting of the Free Systems Alliance. We were the strongest military force in the galaxy. We could have taken the Council's place, but we didn't, Davis replied. That's what makes us different. We fought for freedom, not power. Do you think it will last? Clark asked. This alliance? Davis smiled. I think it will last.